From training to performing, join our big league conversation. Welcome to the CSP Elite Baseball Development Podcast with your host, Eric Cressey.
Welcome back to the CSP Elite Baseball Development Podcast. I'm your host, Eric Cressey. This is episode 93. We've got a family friend, CSP athlete, and current Major League Baseball pitcher as our guest this week. Our relief pitcher has had a lot of success in the last couple of years and has some great pearls of wisdom with respect to managing both training and throwing out of a bullpen and also, attacking off-season programs correctly. He's a guy who comes from the north, so understands the dynamics of being a multi-sport athlete and getting seen from a recruiting standpoint. Interestingly, his wife was actually a CSP intern back in the day and also served as a coach on our staff for a period. This athlete started up with us in 2015, so he's got 6 years of experience underneath our system. And I think he shares some really good insights, both on the training side of things and on the baseball side of things. So we're in for a really good show. This episode is brought to you by Athletic Greens, the most comprehensive NSF certified for sport daily nutritional supplement I've ever tried. With so many stressors in life, it's difficult to maintain effective nutritional habits and give our bodies the nutrients they need to thrive. As a father of 3 young kids and a co-founder of multiple businesses in multiple states, on top of still being an avid exerciser, I know that busy schedules can really take their toll on us. Whether it's poor sleep, exercise or life stressors, environmental factors, or simply not eating enough of the right foods, we can wind up deficient nutritionally. This is where Athletic Greens can really help. It's a game-changing nutritional insurance policy. They simplify the logistics of getting optimal nutrition on a daily basis by giving you just one thing with all the best things. And that's why I use it daily and recommend it to our athletes. 1 scoop of Athletic Greens contains 75 vitamins, minerals, and whole food sourced ingredients, including a multivitamin, multi-mineral, probiotic, green superfood blend, and more. They work together to fill the nutritional gaps in your diet, increase energy and focus, aid in digestion, recovery, and supporting of a healthy immune system. This all can happen without taking multiple products. While most nutritional products come to market and stay stagnant, Athletic Greens continues to obsessively improve this one holistic formula based on the latest research, producing 53 improvements over the last decade. They invest in the most absorbable and natural source of each ingredient and go above and beyond in third-party testing to ensure their customers continue to receive the highest quality and best daily nutritional habit on the planet. It's lifestyle friendly, whether you're keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free, and contains less than 1 gram of sugar without compromising on taste. They put 75 ingredients to the NSF for Sport certification to come up with a formula that's trusted by some of the world's best athletes, including our own. Right now, Athletic Greens is giving our listeners 10 free travel packets with their subscription. Simply go to athleticgreens.com/Cressey to receive my offer. These travel packs are perfect for supporting your immune system, energy, and gut health when you're traveling for games, training, or simply when you're on the go. They can be a great counterbalance to less than ideal on-the-road food options. So if you want to bridge the gap between deficient and optimal and give yourself the best chance to get nutrient diversity, then head to athleticgreens.com/Cressey and get your 10 free travel packets today. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/Cressey, CRESSEY. Today's guest is a relief pitcher who grew up in Indiana and following graduation headed to play college baseball at Parkland College for a year before he transferred to Purdue University, where he played from 2011 to 2012. He served as the closer for Purdue during those 2 years, finishing with a 2.54 ERA, 22 saves, and 94 strikeouts over 2 innings pitched. He was drafted by the Miami Marlins in the 9th round of the 2012 MLB draft. His minor league numbers were impressive, including a 2013 season between High A and Double A where he posted a .77 ERA with 26 saves and 63 strikeouts over 58 and 1/3 innings. He earned Minor League Relief Pitcher of the Year award by the staff at MILB.com. He was eventually called to the big leagues in April of 2016. In February of 2019, he was traded to Cleveland Indians, where he's established himself as a mainstay in their bullpen. In 198 career appearances for 209 innings, he struck out 204 batters against 59 walks and has a career ERA of 3.36. Please welcome to the show, Nick Wittgren. Welcome to the show, Nick.
Hey, how you doing, Eric?
I'm good. Thanks for doing this, man. I feel like most of the time when we hang out, our wives and our 2-year-olds are running around, and there's absolute chaos. We're usually trying to keep somebody from falling off the playground or something like that. But we very rarely get to talk about like baseball and nerd out on it. So this is maybe a more formal platform through which we can do it. So I'm glad we were able to set this up.
Yeah, same here. No running and making sure kiddos don't fall in pools or anything.
You're not, especially yours. Yours is much more of a maniac than my 2-year-old. So
He's nuts.
you got it tougher. All right, so let's start we'll throw it back to your high school era. Growing up, you were both a multi-sport athlete and one of 3 brothers. Is that the perfect combination for eventually becoming a professional athlete?
Yeah. I mean, just trying to honestly, I always tell my older brother this, Kyle. Whenever I was growing up and stuff, my mom would always put us into the same, age group and stuff. And obviously I would go be bumped up a class and be playing with my older brother. So then she didn't have to drive around to team. So I was always playing against older kids growing up, and looking back on it, I'm like, maybe that, kind of helped me in the long run and stuff. But also just playing tennis and basketball as well helps out with footwork. And it's kind of the best combination of everything. You get to be athletic in all 3 sports and then carry over what you learn from, I carried over my footwork from tennis over to baseball at shortstop. That helped me move laterally and stuff. And just little stuff like that kind of helps you out in ways that you don't realize until, the time has already passed and you actually sat down and thought about it.
And were you a 3-sport athlete all the way through high school, or did you kind of gradually taper some of them off as you went?
No, I was a 3-sport all the way. I actually tried quitting baseball my senior year, so glad I didn't do that. Glad my coach talked some sense into me.
No kidding.
Yeah.
I never knew that story. So maybe it leads into my next question is so coming out of high school, you went to community college. So you're, clearly not like a refined product and, eventually wound up at Purdue and became their closer. What was what was kind of the developmental path from high school to college and then ultimately going to become a Division I athlete after that first year at community college? Like what important boxes did you need to check to advance to the next level?
Yeah, no, it actually leads in perfectly because I quit. I was going to quit because I wasn't getting any scholarship offers. I just wanted something to pay for school. I was getting like D3 basketball offers and stuff. So I was like, hey, I'll do that. But a junior college coach, Matt Kennedy, he's actually a friend of mine. Once when I got talked back in playing baseball and stuff, he came and watched me and he saw me the summer prior and I was sitting like 88, 89 as a pitcher, just pitching on that team.
Mm-hmm.
And then once when season started, I was sitting 82, 84, maybe hitting 85 because I was playing shortstop every day and was a all-star shortstop back then. So all the scouts just got scared. And I remember, I think it was IU and someone else came and watched me. And after the first inning, they literally left just because I knew I wasn't throwing hard that day and stuff. And, it is what it is. But as soon as I went to junior college, I had one offer, went with Parkland Junior College, went with KY there. And halfway through, I told him, I was like, hey, I think, Justin Parr is going to start over me at short. And he's like, yeah, he is. And I go, can I pitch only then? And he told me, yeah, go ahead. So I started pitching only. And then I saw my, velo going up because then I started mainly focusing on pitching. And then next thing I know, I put on 10, 15 pounds of muscle too. So I grew into my body. And then Purdue came and saw me again. I was 90, 91 when it was 45 degrees outside. And next thing that led to that was I went to Purdue and I put on like another 10, 15 pounds of muscle and stuff. So that kind of just going to different programs and actually getting into the weight room and doing the stuff that, I needed to do for the baseball aspect all of a sudden helped me out. And it kind of, just blossomed from there.
You touched on an important point, whether you realize it or not, is like they always say that it's really hard to scout northern hitters just because, you're talking about Indiana, like I'm super familiar with Northeast and, Massachusetts and New Hampshire and all these is, maybe you don't see elite arms very often, but it's actually really hard to scout pitchers too. I'm sure for you guys, the season started sometime in March. You spent the first couple weeks shoveling snow off the baseball field.
Oh, yeah.
You're probably coming directly from basketball practice for the first couple weeks of throwing. And, like if you can see a guy and he might be bad one day, his hands might be frozen, he might not be at all prepared. They're probably throwing off a turf mound in a gym. Like, was that often the case for you? Do you feel like that the window to be seen and to be evaluated was so small that they may have actually missed you?
Yeah, I think so. I think because, like I said, going into my senior year, that junior year, I was hitting 88, hitting 89 during the summertime. So if they came and saw me then, it'd be different. But then coming and seeing me in March, like you said, shoveling snow off the ground in 45-degree weather, where I have 2 jackets and a sweatshirt out there, and I'm still cold. It is a little tough, but I mean, I guess that's why a lot of these kids have been doing the whole summer baseball and going from their high school team and then into summer ball right away and stuff. Just get a little bit more exposure, and I completely understand that. I never got the opportunity to do that, but definitely understand it.
I'm curious, when you kind of made that switch to pitcher only, I mean, were you kind of the classic shortstop who gets on the mound, live arm, and maybe not a whole lot of feel of actually how to pitch, or did you have a pretty good idea of how to manipulate secondary stuff and things like that? Were you super raw?
I'd like to think I had an idea of how to pitch and stuff, but honestly, back then I didn't. I was just throwing it to throw it and trying to throw my curveball as, basically back then loopy as I can, being 70 miles an hour or something like that. But that was something that kind of progressed once when I started pitching full time and then transferred to the bullpen at Purdue. I kind of started actually realizing what I needed to do to get hitters out, how I can use my pitches and, my four seam mixed in with my curveball at the time to get guys out. And at the time, I didn't really need a third pitch just because I was getting guys out. So there was no reason to, mess around with the third pitch and potentially get hit on my weakest link.
Yeah, and we'll talk in maybe in a little bit about kind of how the pitch mix has evolved over the years. But so you closed it at Purdue, and relievers are, I think, unfairly undervalued in the draft. And you were a ninth rounder, but you had to put up some pretty impressive numbers to advance through the Marlins organization. So, just looking at it, in 2012, you had a 1.17 ERA. In 2013, it was a .77. You won, minor league baseball.com's reliever of the year. 2014 went up a little bit to 3.55. 2015, it was a 1.42. 2016, it was a 1.42, and then you got called up. And I went back and looked at it. It's just short of a 6-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio over 269 minor league innings. I'm curious about, we see guys that, that struggle, obviously, as starters going from a 7-day to a 5-day rotation. But, there's no guarantee that going from college ball to, to minor leagues, that it's just going to be this smooth transition. A lot of guys get hit and get hit hard. What do you think it was about your approach that allowed you to have more success than scouts might have predicted for a guy who was just a college reliever,
I think for me, it was staying within myself. I knew myself. I knew what I was. I knew what I wasn't, and I've kind of preached this since day one of me ever getting called up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not that guy that's going to overpower you. I'm not that guy that's going to be 99 off the bump or have the nastiest slider or anything like that. I control my pitches. I'm going to go up, down, in, out, mix off speed when you don't think off speed's coming, and throw any pitch in any count to keep you off balance. That's who I am, and that's who I've always been. And it's one of those things that, you just study the hitter. Back in the minor leagues, we didn't really get, any report on all the hitters or anything. So you just have to watch them during the game. And it's like, okay, the guy's throwing on inside fastball. So I might brush one up and in and see if he can swing under it. And I might throw him off speed down and away, and just, little stuff like that. So watching the games and actually being in the games in the minor leagues helped me out to study hitters and watch them and see how I can attack them rather than relying on, just the spreadsheets and everything that we get now. It's kind of the same deal now. But I think just being able to throw and hit my spots and actually pitch rather than just throw a ball 60 feet 6 inches was huge, and some of that.
Was that hard to keep yourself? You talked about staying within yourself. Like, nowadays, obviously, it's even harder to do. Kids go and see guys throwing 100 on Twitter, and guys can learn a new slider grip on YouTube and throw it the next day in a game. Was it a challenge to not consistently have to Did you find yourself wanting to change your game just because you saw yourself putting up incredible numbers but not moving as fast as you probably deserved?
Yeah, that was kind of the deal in 14 when I went to Double A. In 15, I was in Triple A with a .7, or in High A with a .7 all year. And I was seeing guys, go up before me and stuff that had worse numbers. And I didn't understand it. So when I got to Double A the next year, I was like, all right, well, maybe I just need to make something nastier. Maybe I need to, do something better. And obviously, I didn't do either or. I got hit around quite a bit. Um, and it's tough. You see these guys throwing nasty sliders, and you ask them how you hold that and how you throw that. And then you start mixing around with that, and then it might get you off your game with your slider that you've been throwing that is perfectly fine. But in your head, you're thinking you need to change something to move up in levels and, get that promotion. And it's one of those things that, handle your business and the business will handle you.
I like that. So in spite of the success, you got to the big leagues with the Marlins, but you were DFA'd right at the start of spring in 2019, and went to Cleveland. And I'm curious, this isn't a beat up on the Marlins podcast, but we've had Brad Hand on, we've had Mike King, both of those guys who were with the organization, who went elsewhere and kind of surged in various capacities. What do you feel like the Marlins missed on you? And then in what did Cleveland see/develop to make you the successful big leaguer you are today?
Uh, I honestly don't know what Miami missed. I think they just didn't think I was going to keep sustaining, the numbers and everything that I put up with them. They thought I might fall out or something. That's my guess on it. But I think Cleveland, I mean, as soon as I came over, as soon as I got traded over there, they called me and they say, hey, we like who you are. We know who you are. You know who you are. And we're not asking you to be anything more or anything less. Like, be you. And that's it. And, that was really nice to hear. And once when I got over here and they're like, hey, you do you, we'll throw in some snippets. We'll tell you one thing or another and take it or leave it. Like, if you want to do it, do it. And, it was one of those things that they actually talked to me about my changeup usage and where to throw it and when to throw it. And I think that kind of helped me excel the past 2 years too.
I like it. So you actually just, kind of led into it. So let's talk about some of the pitch usage. One of the things that I thought was cool when I actually went and looked at your numbers, and this has been the case for you pretty much throughout your career, is, you talked about not necessarily having an overpowering fastball. It's 92.5, give or take, average velo last year. But what's interesting is you throw it with very high usage. At points in your career, it's been over 70%, and you're kind of up in like Lance Lynn, Bartolo Colon territory. And I think, now it's in the, low to mid 60s. What is it about your fastball, or maybe the pitch mix that accompanies it, that allows you to have so much success with higher usage, even when, in general, baseball's, going the other direction, where you see, Scherzer and Kluber and some of the other guys that we're all familiar with, throwing less than 50% now.
Yeah, I think it complements my other two pitches really well. So my fastball rides really well, so I know I can throw it at the top of the zone. But like I said before, I control it, and that's one thing that I've lived by and try to stand by year in, year out, is controlling my fastball to both sides of the plate and north and south. And if you're able to do that, then they have to respect that. And once when you show you're able to, one, control your fastball everywhere, and then two, throw an off-speed pitch with it, and then you add in the third off-speed pitch for a strike as well. Now they're seeing a ball coming in straight, and now they don't know if that ball is going to go straight or dive down to the right or dive down to the left. And it's one of those things that, I'm not afraid to throw it. I'm not afraid to try to get ahead of hitters with it, and I'm not afraid to try to blow by them once when I need a K or something. But it's just having conviction in that pitch that drives me to keep throwing it. I'm not going to get beat with my second or third best pitch. I want to get beat with my first best pitch if I'm going to get beat.
Mm-hmm. It's funny. I had a conversation with Kurt Schilling, probably like 2008, 2009. And I remember distinctly he said, if you have a good four seam, you actually have 9 different pitches, according to the quadrants, and you can command it. And for him, he was a guy who had, really a mediocre at best breaking ball and a splitter that he never really threw for a strike. So he lived and died by it. And I think it's the best K to walk ratio of all time. So there's obviously proof in the pudding on what you just described.
Yeah, he's unreal. He put it wherever. It was unbelievable watching him.
Now you referred to like the other 2 pitches, obviously. So it's a change up in the slider. Let's maybe talk about the slider first, because as you commented, it was a curveball. Try to make it as big as loopy as you could back in the day, and now it's a slider. It's harder. What were the reasons for the adjustment, and then obviously how did you go about learning it?
So the mix was in Double A in that 14 year. It just started getting hit around really well because it was soft, it was loopy. I had to start it up rather than straight out for it to ever be a strike. So if they saw it out of my hand coming straight at them, it was going to be a ball. And hitters started getting better, so they would just spit on it and move on to the next pitch. So I decided, okay, maybe I'll try to do something else, and then that didn't work, and eventually over time, honestly, it just kind of morphed into the slider. And after talking with a few guys about it and how to use it, it started progressing a little bit. And honestly, it's just one of those things that I started last year not tinkering, I shouldn't say, more just thinking in my head, staying on top of it and getting more of a, instead of a gyro spin on it, more of a true slider curveball spin on it. So then the spin on the ball actually brings the ball down rather than gyro and the ball dropping down.
Mm-hmm.
And ever since then, it's because of Rapsodo and everything, watching that stuff now and seeing how my ball is moving. Now with that technology, I'm like, oh, I can do this. And now I know the depth I can get on it, and I can throw it firmer or softer if need be to make it, a little sweepier or a little harder and more cuttier. And it's just one of those things that you got to feel out and over time and tinker with during the off season. But it just kind of morphed into that hard slider since I knew it'd play better rather than the loopy curveball with my four seam.
Well, I mean, I'm always curious, to see what they do with position players when they turn them into pitchers, and I feel like the play is always fastball slider, just because you throw them both hard. And I was intrigued to hear that answer when you told me that you started off with a curveball back in the day. But the changeup is the one that I'm most interested in. So your usage, you threw it 4% of the time at Purdue, and now it's 25%. And changeup, that is, as I'm sure you probably know and experience, is something that guys struggle with. They try 500 different grips. They don't understand necessarily how to develop it. Kyle Hendricks was a previous guest, and he gave some pretty cool tutorials. And Kyle throws multiple changeups, so he's the very definition of the professor, I guess, with it. I'm curious, what are the important lessons that you've learned? Were there guys that you watched or guys that you talked to the most? I know there were some good changeups in your Marlins days that you were teammates with. How did it come about?
So really, at Purdue, like I said, I didn't need it at Purdue. I was getting guys out with fastball, curveball, and I wasn't going to stray away, But once when got in the minor leagues, pardon me, it was one of the focus to actually, develop that pitch. And like you said, it's a lot of going through a bunch of different grips, finding out what works with your arm slot, and kind of, wrist mobility and where your wrist should be, and on top, on the side, and all that. Have your pinky underneath it on the circle change or on the side of it, just everything. And it took a while, but once we find a grip that you feel comfortable with, I started walking around with the baseball and just holding it with that. And so then my hand would then get comfortable with it. Same thing with the slider. I walk around, and if I have a ball in my hand, I grip change up and then switch to the slider, grip change up, switch to the slider, just get comfortable with it, feel it out. And once when you start throwing it, to me, it's one of the things that I like to over exaggerate. When I was learning it, I was over exaggerating my release point and kind of pronation. I would really, really pronate ridiculously a lot. And then throughout time, it was like, okay, now just throw it. And then it kind of got to the point where I was ripping through it, throwing it as hard as I could. And it was coming out perfect on the pronation where it had the 3 o'clock spin, which if you're going downhill, it's going to have, it's going to take off to the right, but it's also going to have some depth to it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of how I started developing it, just overemphasizing one thing and then slowly moving it towards game speed and actual arm speed, which then made me stay on top of it, get through it, and not, push it or cut it.
Do you throw it a ton in your catch play, or is it something that you'll only let eat off the mound?
Oh no, I usually throw about 4 or 5 during catch play. If I like my first 2, if I throw them and I like my first 2, then I'm done with it with catch play. Just because I like to feel my last throws of every pitch being my best ones of the day. So if I throw 2 good ones, done, over. But if not, then I'll go 4, 5, 6 until I feel right.
What about the slider? I know that's like a debated point. Some guys like to see it like really tight. Some guys want to see it bigger in catch play. Do you throw it all just like in flat grounds, or do you wait till you get off the bump?
I throw it in flat grounds, and I just want to see the spin. As long as, because there's some days where you're throwing with the wind in catch play, and some days you're throwing against the wind. If you're throwing into the wind, if the wind's coming at your face and you're throwing it, it's going to be bigger. But then if you're throwing with the wind the other way, then it's probably going to be smaller. So, in catch play, I don't really care about the movement. I just care about the spin. If it's spinning right, when I get off the mound, I know it's going to move. And you just got to kind of have that trust, and that's why you need a good catch partner too. So then they can tell you, hey, that was good spin on it. It was short action, but you get off the bump in the game, it's going to be good.
So your chance to shout out Kyle Bearclaw, good catch partner in the offseason,
Yep.
Total trooper, rain or shine, wind or no wind, 2-year-old running around in the background or not, right?
Oh yeah, he's coming over to the house a few times and thrown in the street because Jackson had to play in the gym, and I had to watch him while Ash was out.
All right, so we're going to shift gears a little bit. One of the things that I've always noticed about you is that you always seem to have a really good handle on how to structure your off-season throwing. Like you have I think one of the things that we commonly see in pro players, particularly big leaguers who have the longer season, obviously you're in Cleveland, which is, a team that, winds up in the postseason, almost every year, you wind up having these long seasons and you get to this kind of like awkward time where it's, it's Thanksgiving and you're trying to, ask yourself, am I rested enough? Is it time to get ready? And a lot of people just make mistakes there, right? They get going too soon, or maybe they never take enough time off in the first place, whatever it may be. But you always have a good handle on that. So, what is there a typical off-season throwing program for you? That, and how is it modified over the years from when you were a minor leaguer versus a big leaguer versus a big leaguer that was in the postseason?
So yeah, it's modified quite a bit actually. My first off season, I honestly didn't know what to do. And that's where Clayton Richard came into play. He, one, took me in to work out with him in the mornings, but then 2, kind of worked out. He needed a catch partner. I needed a catch partner. So we threw together. And we actually started off Thanksgiving time with throwing the football around. We go to Molenkoff and Purdue's indoor football stadium and throw around the football. And that was kind of 3 days a week. And then next week, it was throw around the football and then also baseball afterwards, 60 feet. And just kind of progressed from there. And now it's gotten to the point where I'll just pick up the baseball before Thanksgiving. I like to start throwing and moving. I never really lose. I kind of do dry drills in between the last game of the season and then when I pick up a ball for the first time. So my arm's still doing that motion, but it's not putting the stress on it that, picking up a ball and trying to throw it at 95 miles an hour is going to put on it. And it's one of those things I just like to make sure I don't lose my release point or lose, my mechanics, especially if I'm going good. I don't want to lose that because, I want to continue to feel that into the next season. And I don't want to lose it, try to find it, can't find it, and then see it. So it's one of those things that has progressed. And now it's, before Thanksgiving, I'm picking up a ball and throwing. And I've actually been playing long toss a lot more during the off season now than I did before. It's basically almost every day with Kyle, and it's actually gotten my arm ready a lot quicker. And I think we kind of talked about this. My velo this spring has actually been a lot firmer than what it usually is. It's usually 90, 91 right now, and been basically sitting 93. So it's been working and feeling good, and it just takes time to realize what your body can handle, though, because some people try to do too much, and I kind of started on the other end. I started not doing a lot and coming in throwing a little less than what I usually do, but now I realize my body can sustain a longer time because, you know, thanks to you, basically, with the workout and everything, and having my body in shape for it, I'm able to sustain it throughout the whole entire season, and I know I can do that, and that's a big thing.
I think you do a good job of setting the stage. One of the things I always look for in like our big league guys is, do they get through 4 4-week programs? And I mapped it out years ago. It's like, hey, like a typical MLB off season, short without playoffs is like 19 weeks, and you're kind of losing a week at like Christmas to New Year's. You're probably losing a little time on the front end when they move back from wherever they were, and then you're losing a little bit of time on the back end when they're moving to spring training. So I always just said, hey, if we can get in 4 4-week blocks and exclude those 3 weeks in the middle there, we're in a good spot. And you're always a guy, you get an October, November, a December, and a January program, and you always get it done. And the January program usually lends itself well to being adjusted for the first spring training program, so that you don't get crazy sore that first week you report. And I just think that's such an important aside to like the throwing program discussion, is a lot of the readiness, the ability to push it sooner comes because you take care of yourself in a general context early in the off season. I don't think you've ever experienced it, but we've just seen so many guys that wait till like December 1st to get moving, and it's too late. You're playing from behind the eight ball, when you're trying to build work capacity and take care of whatever aches and pains they have and all that stuff. It's you got to get quality general work in early so that the specific stuff can come later.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's one of the biggest things that's helped me out is that kind of exactly what you said, the four blocks. It's the same thing as you want a good lifting program that complements your throwing program, and you want a good throwing program that complements your lifting program as well. And you mesh those two well, you're going to be clicking really well.
Yeah, and so one of the things I'm curious about is you are a big like you get off the mound a lot, probably more than anybody else that we work with in the off season, both in terms of actual bullpens and throwing live before you get to spring training. Maybe outline when that starts, how it all kind of sequences out.
Yeah, there's sometimes that right before Christmas I'll get off the mound. So my transition, I don't like really doing flat ground work and going, a week or two of flat ground and then going to the mound. I'm not a big fan of that. If you're going to get somebody down and catching, you might as well get them off the mound, in my eyes. So I just skip that whole deal. And before Christmas time, I like to get off the mound at least once, feel it. And then from there on out, I'm basically off the mound at least twice a week, and then moves to 3 times. And that's not saying I'm up there throwing it as hard as I can every single time. No, I'm working on stuff still and feeling out things. But there are times that, you can amp up, and then there are times that you just need to deload, but you still need to get off the mound and feel the slope and get your hand in the position that you need to throw, a good slider or a good changeup. And that just helps me out with that feeling that much sooner, which makes me be able to perform better that much sooner.
I like it, and I think more guys are throwing live before they report, I think, than ever before. We certainly saw it, and a lot of the mindset of like flat grounds being inherently less stressful on an arm than bullpens is kind of being disproven more and more in the research, particularly with respect to elbows. So I do see more guys getting off the bump a little bit sooner, obviously modifying their intensity as time goes on, but it can be done responsibly.
Yeah, exactly.
So maybe let's shift gears and just talk a little bit about like in-season training. Obviously, workload in the big leagues, can spike and surprise a lot of guys as they come up from the minor leagues when they're on more predictable schedules. When you get to the big leagues, you're throwing on more back-to-back days and maybe 4 out of 7, stuff like that. What are some of the, maybe talk about your approach both to in-season training and throwing, and then also what adjustments you've made over the years as you've learned more?
Yeah, so I used to still try to go to the gym and lift 5 days a week when I first started, and I was just getting exhausted. Um, Trying to actually do like my regular off season lifts back in the minor leagues,
Mm-hmm.
do the off in-season lifts during in-season, it was just it wasn't working out. I would show up just exhausted to the field, and my energy would be low, and I'd have to grind through it to get there. And nowadays, I've transitioned to where the first half of the season, I'm doing an upper, lower, and then a total body. So 3 lifts a week, and then transition that after the All-Star break. I go into just 2 total body workouts the whole entire time up until season ends. And it's one of those things that kind of just, I modified just in the fact that I started throwing a lot more, realizing you're going to get hot, you're going to get dry humped, you're going to get into a game, and then you're going to go back to back, maybe even 3 in a row. And when you do that, obviously you don't need to put any more stress on your body than what it already has gone through. And so you just kind of, as a reliever, we don't have the luxury that, the starters have of, when you're throwing every 5 days and mapping it out. We just kind of got to figure out what we need to do and when we need to do it. If we need to lift heavy because I haven't thrown in a little bit, then I can lift heavy. But if I throw a lot, then I'm going to deload. I'm only going to do 2 sets of everything and maybe not even do, 5 or 6 lifts. Just do 4 or 5, get them done, get some movement in, and be done with it. There's times to load up on things during season and times to, take a breather on it. And that's one thing that I kind of learned really, really well over here in Cleveland with Joe Kessler and Nelson and stuff.
I like that. Talked about the throwing side of things, like, because I've always heard stories about the Indians, especially like 16, 17. Those guys were notorious. I actually talked to Matt Blake about it for really aggressive catch play pre-game. Like, what do you guys, or what do you personally like to utilize from a throwing standpoint in season?
So if I haven't thrown, like to start the year, we'll just say start the year. I never go past, I'll say 100 feet, basically 90 feet. There'll be days I'm like a few feet by and crow hop in, but I want to feel that release point dead straight coming out. I don't want any angle on it or anything like that. I want to feel the release point that I'm going to feel while I'm pitching, and that's the only release point I want to feel. So I say I'm only about 90 feet the whole entire time, but it's I want good throws, good effort. I go, upper left shoulder, upper right shoulder, down at the knees, still trying to hit my spots during catch play so that I'm not just wasting throws. I'm getting something out of it. And then I come in, and like I said, I'll probably throw 5, 6, 7 fastballs, and then go the off speed and finish off with a few fastballs as well. Just at the chest, just trying to hit my spots again. But it's definitely you can ramp up more than what you think beforehand. But if obviously you've been used 3 days in a row or something, then it's not bad to decline and take a nice little break and give the arm a break and a total day of recovery and stuff.
Absolutely. Are there certain things that you want to master in the bullpen before you enter a game? Like, are there things where, like, you're out there, it's the 6th inning, you're warming up to go out and throw the 7th, and you don't feel good? Will you bang your head against the wall? Because I know Justin Verlander actually just posted something good about, like, some of his best outings have been some of his worst bullpens. Are there certain like key checkpoints for you before you actually enter a game?
I just want my fastball command. If I have my fastball command, then I feel like I'm in control. Even if my slider and my changeup are absolutely terrible that day, if I have my fastball command, I feel like I'm in control. So that's one thing I always try to do. But that's funny you say that, because there's always a joke that in the bullpen, if you're warming up, then you're just nails in the bullpen. You might want to throw one over the backstop real quick. and let me tell you, I've done that a time or two where I'm just hitting every spot in the bullpen. Next thing you know, I launched one way up into the right, nowhere even close to the catcher. And it's just like, hey, nope, it's going too well. Need something to, throw me off a little. But
Sacrificial lamb to the baseball gods, right?
Exactly.
I like it. Well, we always wrap up with a lightning round. So we're gonna throw a couple of questions at you that you can be as long as you want with your answers, but they're quick questions. So, career high fastball velocity in 2020 with no fans in the stands. What's the magic secret?
I think knowing there was only 60 games and being able to actually get in. I mean, it was basically another off season that we got in at the forefront of it. We came in for 3 weeks and then we got to go back home and retrain and like the off season for 2 more months. So I think that had a lot to do with it.
I like it. All right. So we haven't talked about it yet, but your wife Ashley is a former CSP intern and staff member who's well educated in both the realm of training and nutrition. So, what's the most important training or nutrition lesson that you've learned from your wife?
Don't be stubborn. There's moments to pick your stubbornness, but if you're not feeling great one day and you have heavy deadlifts or something, she's like, don't be stubborn. Listen to your body. Your body's telling you something, and you need to listen to it. And I feel like taking that advice from her really helped me out in progressing in my lifts and building my strength and stuff, because I wasn't trying to overdo it and having bad technique and possibly getting hurt by doing something that my body wasn't ready for.
I like it. That's good stuff, and a good opportunity to shout out your wife for being a longtime supporter of the CSP family. Other one, lessons for young Nick Wittgren. Let's say 17-year-old Nick Wittgren. You go back in time and you give him advice. What are you telling him?
Keep a level head. Just stay who you are. Don't change. It's a lot of people are going to try to change you out there, and be you.
All right, and then if you had to pick a favorite teammate of all time, who would it be and why?
Favorite teammate? Oh man, you're putting me on the spot right
here.
You
can pick a couple if you want to. We won't.
Yeah, that whole bullpen we had in Miami was awesome when I first came up. Just between like Edwin Jackson, AJ Ramos, Mike Dunn, David Phelps, Bear Claw, all of them there, and then obviously I got to shout out Tom Kohler as well. He kind of just guided me on the whole part of just being a big leaguer, and same with Mike Dunn. He physically took me and let me live at his house during 2016 season and showed me the ropes and stuff. So I don't know if I can ever repay them for that.
That's a good collection of dudes right there. Actually, quite a few guys we've had on the podcast too, so you're in good company. And then last one, what pitchers do you like to watch and why?
Honestly, nowadays, everyone's fun to watch. Everyone has that edge on them. Everyone's going out there playing their game and throwing their game, and that kind of old school baseball mentality of, don't show emotion, just get the strikeout, walk back in, has kind of slowly been going downhill. Same with, guy hits a home run, you deserve pimp that. You just hit it 400 feet off me. Like, okay, good job. So I just watching anyone compete. If you're competing, I like to watch it.
I like it. That's a good grow the game answer. Very PC, but very accurate. All right. So folks can find you on Twitter. It's at @n_wit. And then on Instagram, it's nwhitgren62. Thanks so much for doing this, man. Lots of really good stuff. I appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on here, Eric.
Best of luck this season, and hopefully we will see you soon.
Thanks, man. Definitely will.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of the CSP Elite Baseball Development Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, we'd be thrilled if you'd consider subscribing to the podcast and leaving us a review to read on iTunes. We welcome your suggestions for future guests and questions. Just email elitebaseballpodcast@gmail.com. Thank you for your continued support, and we'll see you next episode.